We now continue with more of the Mark Milton Show with The Smash on 590 The Fan and 590thefan.com.
That's a good producer we got there, Uncle Milty. Dave Solomon, a wonderful young man right there. Sharp job right there, buddy. All right, let me ask you about this. I don't know if it's a rumor or if it's a truth or whatever, but I love NBA basketball, and it's definitely a young man. By the way, you are familiar with the round of it all. Do you feel that ballers are truer to basketball or truer to football? Or you're a golfer. You consider yourself a baller of sorts?
I do play basketball, if that's what you're asking. I mean, I've always enjoyed basketball. I got cut actually for my freshman high school team, so really wasn't very big at the time. I was trying out to be a point guard at the time because I was about probably 5'8" or 5'9" as a freshman in high school. Had a pretty good program at Belleville East, so I did not make the team. And unlike Michael Jordan, I did not persevere and go back and go on to make a future team and then go on to an NBA career.
That's funny. I'm not laughing at you in the prospect of you being a baller.
Oh, I'm sure you are,
okay.
But that's all right.
I am. So tell me about this deal going the thing with Toronto, man. Is it possible they're thinking about leaving Toronto and jumping back into the U.S.?
Well, so I had heard, Toronto is unclear whether they're going to be allowed to participate next year or this year. It's confusing to me when the NBA is going to start. I think they're talking about Christmas Day. It starts again.
Wow, really? Well, that's big ratings for them, yeah.
Well, because if you think about it, they would already be starting their season.
Yeah, that's right.
If it wasn't for the delay.
That's right.
But so apparently Toronto, the ownership group, is looking at different sites in the U.S. One of our friend of the show, Steve Lehman in Nashville, Tennessee, had actually told me that he knew that the Raptors had toured the Bridgestone Arena in Nashville as one site, and now there's a push in Kansas City to have the Raptors play their season at the newly branded T-Mobile Arena in downtown Kansas City in the Power and Light District. So that does, it sparks. Well, why isn't St. Louis making a play for that, right? I mean, we've got a top-notch, state-of-the-art arena downtown that could easily play home to an NBA team on at least a temporary basis. I have not heard anything about it in St. Louis, but I know that Mayor Lucas in Kansas City has been advocating for the Raptors to move there for this year. It's not a permanent move, but temporarily. And Patrick Mahomes actually tweeted about it as well to give it some extra gusto.
Yeah.
So I certainly think Kansas City would be in the running, especially since they're you got a guy like Patrick Mahomes tweeting about it, probably one of the most influential athletes right now.
Yeah.
So it'll be interesting to see how that plays out. And I will say that if you think back about Oklahoma City, I mean, nobody would have thought Oklahoma City would have been a great NBA town,
Good
right?
point.
And it's proven to have one of the most rabid fan bases in all of sports. And they got a shot because of wasn't it Katrina when the Hornets moved?
Oh, wow, that's right. That's right.
They moved temporarily to Oklahoma City,
and
they sold out like every game. And then when it came time for the Seattle Supersonics to want to relocate, they ended up getting the Sonics and turned it into the Thunder. So, I mean, it could be an opportunity for a place like Kansas City. I personally would love to see an NBA team in St. Louis. It's something when we had one of my old professors on, Professor Raycraft, talked about a project I did. I did a big research project on bringing a team to St. Louis. I called them the St. Louis Mudcats, tribute
Mudcats,
to
right.
the
I
Mississippi River.
Yeah.
I even drew a mascot, Whiskers, family-friendly mascot named Whiskers, a big catfish that would go around the arena and do corporate events. So I would love to see it. I also wonder, could it be possible we have a Missouri Mudcats where the team splits time between St. Louis and Kansas City?
Oh, that's good.
That
I like
could be an interesting.
That would be
dynamic, because one of the things I had always heard about Kansas City was, and when it used to be called the Sprint Center, was they made more money by not having a professional sports franchise, a hockey team or an NBA team, by being able to host concerts and other events. Because one of the downsides of having an NBA team, if you own a facility, or an NHL team, is that you have to give all the prime dates to those teams, right?
Right.
So instead, they're able to host concerts on Friday, Saturday nights, and sell out and do all those things.
Well,
that doesn't seem like that would be true to me, but that is what I've heard about it.
Can I give you an imagery type of thing to this whole deal?
Sure.
All right. Nashville should get the Raptors, and I'll tell you why. Because in ancient Greek mythology, the Titans fought the Predators, Nashville Predators, Nashville Titans. Hey, bring the Raptors in, and who else did the Titans fight in Greek mythology? The beasts that roamed the earth at that time, the Raptors. You could have a scenario right there that could be a return to Mount Olympus. But that's just me thinking askew.
Wow, that's some serious breakdown. I didn't know that about the Titans and the Predators. Is that why they named them the Predators?
Well, no, I don't know about that. I think the Titans came after the Predators, didn't they?
No, the Titans were the Houston Oilers moved to Nashville. They were called the Tennessee Oilers.
That's right.
And I think they I think they changed the name maybe a year later. It is interesting you think about teams that originated their names, right? Because like Tennessee Oilers wouldn't make sense, right?
No.
But the reason they were the Oilers was because Houston, because of the oil industry.
Exactly right.
Similarly, Minneapolis, the Lakers. The LA Lakers really doesn't make any sense, but they moved from Minnesota to LA and they kept the name. Speaking of Kansas City Kings left in the 80s to go to Sacramento. They're still the Kings. I just kind of deep thoughts with Milty here on kind of how names and the Braves, the Milwaukee Braves, moved to Atlanta because Milwaukee had a big, obviously the Milwaukee name and the Indian Native American heritage there. Moved to Atlanta and they kept the name. It's just kind of food for thought for Milty here.
They ever get rid of that tomahawk sing along thing that they do over there?
I think I don't know if they got rid of it. I remember there was a Cardinal reliever who actually took exception to that.
Oh, really?
But I think they still do it. I think the Chiefs still do their thing. My alma mater, the University of Illinois, got rid of the standard overhead clap, the beat of the fight drum. I don't know what you call that, but
what was the name of the big chief there?
I always referred to it as the standard overhead clap. And actually, it's kind of funny when I got to go to the Rose Bowl in 2008 when Illinois made it to the Rose Bowl. And they played USC, and I got to tell you, some of these USC fans just very pompous and just not really fun to be around because I felt like they didn't think Illinois deserved to be there. USC didn't really want to be there. I think they were in the hunt for maybe the national title and ended up in the Rose Bowl. But anyway, we're on one of these shuttles because you have to take a shuttle from parking lot to get to the Rose Bowl. And after the game, they pretty much kicked Illinois' ass in the Rose Bowl. Although the game could have been a lot closer, aside from a couple of key turnovers that the Illini had. But anyway, we're on this bus, and I noticed during the game that all the USC fans, they had like a fight song, and they would kind of stick their two fingers in the air, and kind of do that. Do you know what that's about?
I do not. No.
So, in speaking of a lore or whatever you were with the Titans thing, so in Trojan lore, the two fingers, if you could raise your two fingers up and sort of wave them in the air, that meant that you had the two fingers necessary to do the bow and arrow, right?
Oh, really?
To be able to fight on. So you're fighting on.
I see.
But apparently back then, if you were captured, they would cut off your two fingers so that you could no longer fight
the bow and arrow.
in the battle.
Wow, I didn't know that.
Your bow and arrow. So then they turned to me. I was like, "Oh, that's interesting." And they turned to me and they're like, "What were you guys doing over there with your little chant?" Because the Illini, you do like the clap, and I said, "Oh, that's just your standard overhead clap." Because I didn't have a name. I didn't really have a story for it, so I felt pretty inadequate that I didn't have a better explanation. I'm sure there is an explanation for it. We should have asked Dr. Raycraft for it, but I'm without one. I just went with.
Is there no truth to the reason for your two fingers? Is the Cuisinart? You actually were defingered so that you couldn't pull back on the. I
still have mine. I'm fighting on, baby. I still got mine. So not a concern. But I will say, it would be interesting. Get back to the NBA talk
go ahead.
See if Kansas City could get a team, at least on a temporary basis, if they got the Raptors there, I'd be all for it. I don't know if they would have fans or not this year, but I would certainly make the trip over to catch a game.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
And I'd love to be a part of any kind of effort to bring a team to St. Louis. I think there's a rich basketball history here. The Billikens in the 90s certainly had one of the highest, attendance rates of all of college basketball when they were playing at the old, I guess it was the Kiel Center at the time. It's the current Enterprise Center.
Mm-hmm.
But certainly I think there is potential. I think there's also the potential for, unifying some of the demographics here in the St. Louis area. I've talked about this. One of the things that stood out to me about going to Wizards games is just how many African Americans you had attending those games, and you just don't see that at some of the other pro sports, baseball, hockey, at least in the St. Louis area. And so it's definitely a game that I think appeals, more broadly to the different demographics here in the St. Louis area. It could hopefully be a unifying thing to all get behind an NBA team. But you got to have talent, right? I mean, you got to compete. Otherwise, it becomes tough to make it as an NBA team.
Righto. Well, you also got to have star power and who would jump into that situation. But again, a
Jason
guy like
Tatum. Maybe we could sign Jason Tatum.
That would be
trade
good.
For him, bring the St. Louis kid home.
Yeah,
that'd be pretty
good.
cool.
That would be good. And Kansas City, right there in the middle, taking on the Thunder. That'd be a huge, huge rivalry, wouldn't you think?
I would think so.
Yeah, because both Midwestern type teams. Well, we're going to wind it up here. We got about a minute left here as far as the Mark Milton show is concerned. Very, very interesting show today. And again, I applaud you. High-handed applause, I guess you say, on the fact that you've self-quarantined yourself to take care of your wife who got diagnosed and take care of your kids who are negative like you are. And I'm not talking about the virus. I'm just talking about attitude. But that's me.
Thanks, Matt. I appreciate it.
Don't
forget,
fantastic.
you can find us here at 590.
Yes.
You can download the podcast, 590thefan.com, themarkmiltonshow.com. We're also on Apple iTunes. You can subscribe and listen anytime.
Well, that's Mark Milton right there. He is the St. Louis tax lawyer, STL, taxlawyer.com. He helped me, is still helping me, because sometimes this stuff, it takes a long time for it to go away, but he will work on it to make sure that it does not, shall we say, impede your life, because you got a life to live. And maybe you had a bad situation in the past. Well, we're trying to straighten it out right now. And one of the guys who can get that accomplished for you is Mark Milton. And the beauty of it is, if you have no tax problems whatsoever, this is definitely the guy to come to, and he'll make sure you never do. So a lot of people don't look at it from that angle, Mark, but that's to be appreciated also. Hey, Mark Milton Show. We'll catch you again next week. Same time, same place. Talk to you then, partner.